Hello there. This is Devon Carter from CarTek Consulting. That's Carter Technologies Consulting. We are a cybersecurity consulting firm. You can follow us on Facebook slash CarTek Consulting, CARTEK Consulting, and on Twitter at CarTek Consult, CARTEK Consult. And then our website is www.cartekconsulting.com. That's www.cartekconsulting.com. Last week when I was here, I believe the topic we discussed was, basics about information security with regards to small businesses. I mentioned on last week also that this week's topic would be focused on ransomware. So I titled this little talk as Ransomware, What's the Big Deal? And the reason I did that is because I still talk to people, or a lot of people who don't really know what the deal is with ransomware. They really don't understand what it is, how it works, what it does. And I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of what it is and what it does on this particular broadcast because I it's just too much for this type of forum. But I will kind of give some overview and some tips as far as how to secure and protect yourself from ransomware. So, jumping into it, first thing, let's talk about what ransomware is. I'll give a little brief description of ransomware. So, basically, it's malware, right? I'm sure many of you have seen those old movies and maybe some of the new movies where somebody gets taken hostage and basically say either you give us $1 million or we're going to kill this person or whatever. Well, it's literally the identical premise when you start talking about ransomware. Basically, a hacker has figured out a way to get into your computer and lock you out of it. Basically, hold your computer hostage, your server hostage, ultimately your data hostage for a ransom. Now, the significance of this is, first of all, this has been going on for a while, for probably about a decade or more, but it's just become more and more prevalent as years have gone by because of how lucrative it is for hackers, right? I think I want to say a couple years back there was a big ring of ransomware, something where they hit like a lot of consumers, and basically what they did was they were able to send out a phishing email. We talked about that last week. A phishing email, um, SHING, where somebody sent out a fraudulent email. Somebody clicked the link, and that forced them to download the ransomware. It encrypted all their data, meaning they couldn't get to it at all. And so they had to pay the ransom in Bitcoin. I'm sure everybody's heard of Bitcoin in some shape or form, form, or fashion by now. And basically, what that is it gives you, well, first of all, Bitcoin is cryptocurrency. It's been crashing this year, not a great year for it this year. And basically, they use that for payment because it's an anonymous payment method. It's very, very difficult to track um, who the money went to. So that's why these hackers are requiring payment in that form. But I digress. So they hold your data ransom, they require the payment in Bitcoin. Now, as I said, it's been going on a while, but what happened in this instance was they hit consumers. And so when they hit consumers, they sent it out to thousands of people. Quite a few people clicked the link. And what they did was they did their research. They actually researched to figure out just how much could a person afford to pay before they said, screw it, I'm going to go to the cops. So I think it was somewhere around $200 or $300, and they got a huge chunk of people to pay that $200 or $300 to release their data, to the tune of, I think these guys made a couple $100,000 in a day. Now, I mean, you do the math on that. There's a lot of people who don't make that in a year. So that's very, very lucrative from the criminal standpoint, and it makes a lot of consumers and businesses great targets for that. Because if you think about it, if you hit a business and that business is no longer able to function until they get their data back, then you've crippled them. So they are very motivated to pay large sums of money. In fact, up until maybe a few years ago, I think law enforcement, FBI, a bunch of people would tell you to pay the ransom. That was the best way to prevent getting hit. So when you talk about getting hit with ransomware, the price can go from anywhere from hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. they're hitting hospitals, they're hitting them for millions of dollars a pop. And so when you start thinking of small businesses again and what happens with them, they can't afford to do this. So the best way to protect yourself against ransomware is to try to prevent yourself from getting hit by ransomware. And we talked about some of the things you can do to protect yourself last week. Patching. Make sure your operating system is patched. Those little pop-ups that come up on your Windows machine that says, hey, you got to update, go ahead and install the update. But don't just stop there. If you run an Adobe, all these third-party applications and things on your machine, then guess what? You need to go ahead and update those as well. Why? Because every time you don't update, you leave a little hole that a hacker can get through to infect you with ransomware. Now, ransomware can be very, very nasty. I have a couple of clients that I've helped, and that some more clients that are scared into taking some action now to prevent getting hacked. And I mean, it's brutal. The best mechanism to protect yourself, again, patch, patch, patch. The other mechanism is educate yourselves. Be careful of clicking on these emails, clicking on links that you're not familiar with, visiting some of these, we'll just say, interesting websites that maybe you shouldn't visit on the company computer. All those places are just hot spots, hotbeds for getting breached and seeing all that bad stuff happen to you. Um, One of the other things you can do, backups. Okay, that is the surefire best way to protect yourself, because what is beginning to happen now is starting to shift a little bit. Because even if you pay the ransom, two things happen, or two things can happen, probably more, but I'll focus on these two. If you pay the ransom, right, and they decide that no, we're not gonna give you your data back, then what'd you get? Nothing. You just lost the money and all your data gets destroyed, right? So you haven't gained anything. The other part of it is, if you pay the ransom and they're nice enough to actually give you back access to your data, well, guess what they know now? They know that you're willing to pay. So you could be a repeat customer, so to speak, for ransomware, because now they can put out on the dark web and everywhere else that, hey, this person will pay up if they get squeezed hard enough, right? So backups. Why are backups important? Because it's nice to be able to say, hey, screw you, I'm not paying. All right, go ahead, wipe the data. Why? Because you know you have backups that you can restore your data from. Just wipe your computers, reload them, restore from backups, and you back up and running. You going, right? So that those types of things are important for a lot of small businesses. Maybe not so much for consumers, regular people, not non-business owners. The big thing is logs. A lot of people really take logs for granted. What are logs? Well, every time your computer runs and does something in the background, it creates some type of log, right? And what do the logs do? It gives you basically timestamps, events of what's going on your computer. Why is it important? Well, from a forensic standpoint, it gives me the ability to backtrack and see how I was breached, or what happened, or were there any precursor or telltale signs to let me know that a breach was about to occur. And so you want to start looking at solutions for logging. Some out there, a SIM, Security Information Event Management tool, or things like Splunk. That's a cool tool out there. It's very expensive, but they have some cheaper options out there. What else? Not just that, your AV, your antivirus, right? I'm sure a lot of you out there are running antivirus, but how often is it getting updated, right? How much attention are you paying to it to ensure that it's doing what it needs to do? Microsoft did a fairly decent job with Windows Defender, that comes built into Microsoft operating system, so you don't necessarily have to purchase anything new if you don't want to. All right. What else can you think of? IDS and IPS for those small businesses, intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. What are those? Well, they're tools that you can use to prevent people from hacking into your network or getting into your network, And then the detection side of it will allow you to detect if somebody was able to get past your prevention system. So all these tools kind of work together to form overlapping of barriers of what we call defense in depth to try to protect your small business, protect your home from becoming another statistic and everything that's going on. I kind of mentioned training a little bit. Training is extraordinarily important. Why? Because statistics show, I think it's like still somewhere around 25 to 30% of all people still click on a phishing email. So that means at least 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3 people are clicking on a phishing email. What does that mean? Well, that means that companies are still getting breached, they're getting owned, and they're losing money. This is big business in the black market when you start talking about it. So ransomware will continue to grow as an issue. I read the Verizon data breach report, and it shows increasing numbers, but the increase is in small businesses. Why? Because they act as the conduit. They can become the front door for a lot of large businesses, right? Because small businesses do business with large businesses, right? And so small businesses have access to a lot of people, right? Doctors, lawyers, professionals, CEOs. They go and do business with small businesses, which means those small businesses have their data, right? And what happens? Those small businesses typically don't have the resources necessary to protect themselves, so they're a prime target. I talked about this last week. If you and your friends are getting chased in the woods by a bear, right? I don't got to be the fastest in the group. I just have to be faster than the slowest person in the group, right? So same principle when it comes to protecting yourself. Make sure that you're doing some things that others aren't doing. And I can tell you, a lot of small businesses are not doing enough. So they're very, very vulnerable to bad things happening. So I like to keep my talk short. I haven't seen any questions so far. So if you have any questions for me, you can hit me on Twitter at CarTek Consult, CARTEK Consult. I got my Facebook page, CarTek Consulting, CARTEK Consulting, on Facebook. Follow me there. Follow me on Twitter, and then my website www.cartekconsulting.com. Would love to hear from you. Let me know if there's any topics that you want to hear discussed. There's a lot going on all over the place from a technology standpoint. Obviously the Russia stuff. Don't want to get into the politics of it, but the Russia stuff. There's reports out there. I don't know if anybody know that they actually took over one of our power plants in the United States. They left a little notice in there just to kind of warn us to say, hey, we can get in whenever we want to, and here's a note just to know, or just to let you know what we could have done. And so there's a lot of things going on in cybersecurity. There's a lot of opportunity in cybersecurity. I think the numbers, speaking specifically for African Americans, for Black people, I think only 3% of the workforce in cybersecurity are African American. So that's a really small percentage. So there's a lot of opportunity there for people who are looking to get into that field. If you want some information on that, hit me up. I've taught cybersecurity courses, everything from Security Plus. I've taught certified information system security professional courses, intro to ethical hacking. I'm a certified wireless hacker myself. I have information, I have knowledge, and I would love the opportunity to share it with you, whether it be for business or for some professional aspirations. So again, get at me at CarTek Consult on Twitter, my Facebook page, /CarTek Consulting. And again, be careful of the ransomware. Do the basics. Update your computers. Do backups all the time. Backup at least weekly to make sure you're protected in case you get hit. If you're a small business, get at me. I would love to help you become more secure and protect not just your business, but protect your clients as well. So y'all have a good night. Peace.